Tax-free savings accounts were introduced in 2009 by Stephen Harper's conservative government, and they've been one of the most utilized tools for wealth creation ever since. For those of you who are unfamiliar with how they work, essentially any dividends, interest, or investment growth on assets held within the account are completely tax-free. You won't pay tax when the interest is generated inside of the account or when you eventually take the money out of the account itself. Now, I've always had an issue with how they name the account in the first place because it implies that it's just a savings account. However, you can invest in just about any asset within the TFSA. Over my career, I've been asked countless times what our rate is on our TFSAs, but that question is loaded with so many incorrect assumptions, it's tough to know where to start. I think part of the issue is not only the name, but the way accounts are often communicated at the big banks. Clients are often sold GICs or other savings types of investments, and people just assume that's all you can hold in the account. The reality is that you can hold mutual funds, individual stocks, ETFs, bonds, and even trade certain options contracts as well. You should have a great degree of caution in trading highly speculative investments inside of tax-free savings accounts, which I'll touch on later in this video. TFSAs have contribution limits that can be different for everyone. There's plenty of calculators online that can help you determine what yours specifically is, but at a high level, it's a combination of your total accumulated room, which is based on the year you turned 18, minus any contributions you've made, plus back any withdrawals that you've made from the account as well. You also need to be a Canadian resident to accumulate room, and there's additional contribution room added to the account each year, which is set out by the government. Now, here's an example of how someone might calculate their contribution room. Let's say you were 18 before 2009 when the accounts were introduced, so you have the maximum amount of room available to you. In this case, in 2025, that would be $102,000. If you made a $50,000 contribution in 2015, you withdrew $40,000 a year later, your remaining room would be $92,000. Any withdrawals you make from the account gets added back to your room the following calendar year. Now, the way these are calculated come with some really interesting nuances that can be used to your advantage or to your disadvantage, which I'll touch on a bit later in the video. I'll now go through a few of the best things you can do with your TFSAs to make sure you're maximizing them to their potential. First, you want to make sure you're investing in the account based on your risk tolerance and your personal goals. Assuming it can only be used for savings could leave hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table in what we call opportunity costs, meaning what the money could have turned into. The ability to have $100,000 or more inside of an account, compounding tax-free over decades, is extremely valuable. Not only is it valuable in terms of the avoided tax on the investments, but many government social programs are income tested, and TFSAs can be a great tax planning tool to withdraw income tax-free and still qualify for some government benefits. Determining your risk tolerance is a personal choice, which is based on your own personal risk capacity and your ability to handle market risk, but playing it too safe with GICs inside of these accounts can leave a lot of money on the table. The second major thing you want to be aware of is utilizing its tax advantage status to its fullest potential by sheltering certain investment income inside of the accounts rather than others. Let me explain. So in Canada, there are three types of investment income you can generate from your investments: interest income, dividends, and capital gains. In that order, they go from least efficient to most efficient, meaning interest income gets taxed heavier than what a capital gain would. Now, with most things in personal finance, these things are based on your personal circumstances, but there are some situations where it might make sense to hold some more interest-bearing investments inside of your TFSAs to shelter them, and investments that generate capital gains in a different account, whether it be inside of your corporation or a non-registered account. Now, there is some debate on this topic as you can approach it from a few different angles. The counter argument to this is that you should hold more equity type of investments inside of the account because although they're more efficient from a tax perspective, they also generate better long-term returns, which should be grown inside of a TFSA. This is likely a better option for many Canadians who haven't yet maximized their tax-free savings account. Again, this is not specific financial advice, and it'll depend on your own situation, but the underlying message here is that you should be mindful of what investments you're holding in your different accounts, especially the TFSA, from a tax perspective. Not all investments are taxed similarly, so it should factor into which account you're holding them. The third thing to be aware of is not holding investments that are extremely speculative inside of your TFSA. Based on what we've gone over so far, the idea of swinging for the fences inside of a TFSA can seem appealing. You may have seen stories on Reddit of people already being TFSA millionaires because of the highly risky investments they've gotten lucky with in their account. Now, there needs to be a great deal of caution here. So, revisiting the example of how TFSA room is calculated, we'll go through another couple of examples illustrating what happens if the account does really well versus if a speculative investment does not turn out so good. So let's say our client Bill got extremely lucky on an investment and he 10x'd his account to $1 million. If he withdrew that investment, the full $1 million, his TFSA room would be $1 million. Looking back at the formula, which says that his room is calculated based on his total room minus his contributions plus any withdrawals. So if he withdraws $1 million, he would have that full amount as his room going forward. Pretty exciting, right? Now let's illustrate what would have happened if it instead went to zero. Going back to our formula, his total room was $102,000. Now we subtract the $102,000 that he contributed to get started. But now, because his investments are worthless, there's nothing for him to withdraw to regenerate that room back. Effectively, he's burned his TFSA room permanently until he can start accumulating the annual maximum room we all get every year, but that original $102,000 of room has effectively been permanently burned. So to calculate the actual cost of this mistake, we need to see what the investments would have been had they compounded for the next 30 years, for example. So that $102,000 compounded at 8% over 30 years would have net him over $1 million. Again, completely tax-free. The impact of this cannot be overstated. So this is a word of caution if you're being told to get as risky as possible inside of these accounts. It can cause permanent damage to your financial well-being and burn through one of the best options we have in Canada for tax-free growth. So to summarize, these accounts can be one of the best wealth building tools available to Canadians, again, if used properly. Because they're relatively new, we haven't seen many TFSA millionaires, but I think by the time my generation's retiring, it'll be a lot more common to see it. Unless, of course, the powers that be decide it's too good to be true and find a way to tax it. Maybe that's a theme for another video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this helpful.